In 2015, in May, we made a garden at the Chelsea Flower Show for Laurent Perrier in Chatsworth, and it was inspired by the trout stream here at Chatsworth, which is in the upper reaches of the garden. And we've come back this autumn with the materials and the planting from the Chelsea Show garden to start replacing the garden and rejuvenating the trout stream.
See all of those plants and materials that had come from Chatsworth or had been associated with it coming back was really exciting. Many of the items were familiar to us because we'd been in long discussions about exactly what was going to be included in the garden at Chelsea with Dan to make sure it really reflected the trout stream and the feeling of the garden at Chatsworth. It was quite daunting when they all arrived, lorry loads of plants. We moved back up to the trout stream ready to be placed by Dan and his team and by us to make sure they fitted in with what was already there and had a really good reflection of what was used at Chelsea earlier in the year.
We brought these stone stacks, which were a signature hallmark of Chatsworth, and there were also these crossings that we had that were moving over the water. One a straight crossing and one a zigzag crossing, which takes you in different directions. And they are being placed over the lenses so that you've got this opportunity to move over the trout stream and walk behind the water. The David Nash sculpture, which we had at the Chelsea Flower Show garden, has also come back and is sitting very proudly now in its own space alongside the streams, looking really marvellous. And David's named it the Oculus Oak because it has these wonderful little windows in it as well, so you can look through the windows to the trees around you. We've also brought trees and shrubs back, which will run alongside the water and give this part of the garden these seasonal fluxes. So we'll start with marsh marigolds and then we'll go on to candelabra primulas and run right the way through to hydrangeas late on in the season. So this part of the garden over the next few years will start to see this tremendous revitalisation and change for the future.
We've been talking about it for a couple of years in terms of the design of the Chelsea garden and then reinstalling it at Chatsworth. During 2016 and onwards, we'll continue to add to the planting, adding more of the same type of plants and some of the additional plants that we've selected with Dan as well. And then visitors will be able to come and see all of the plants settling in, starting to bloom. Many of them will be flowering around the May time, which is obviously when they were designed for Chelsea, but all through the year there'll be interest in a whole new range of plants to see along the trout stream.
So the great thing about a show garden that has another life is that all those plants you were investing something else in when you put them in the first place. They now have got a home and they can grow into it and be here hopefully for the next 50 years. So we've made this wonderful series of clearings by taking away things which weren't important to the upper reaches of the garden, things that just seeded in, for instance, and replaced them with really quite special things which will give this part of the garden very lovely quality that's going to be here to last.